series first came out, it was just terrible. Everybody in the end, all the professional yachties thought it was terrible for business.
Of course.
They were so offended and insulted and just felt like it represented us all so poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my take on it even then was, look, it's not National Geographic. This is Bravo. We're not trying to be real here. We're trying to be entertaining. And the industry is very entertaining. And I think that the readers know that. And besides, it's the most free advertising our industry has ever could have imagined to get.
Hello, welcome to Maritime Moment, your marine news, entertainment, video podcast program. I'm your co-host, Lisa Overing, with Art Hill and Julianne Raines. Maritime Moment is a creative collaboration featuring marine news entertainment for yachting, recreational boating, commercial marine, the shallow draft industry, and fishing, brought to you by Mega Yacht Media and Road Marine Business Advisors. Today's guest is Amy Ira, a former chief stewardess who climbed the hawse pipe to become president and co-owner of Bluewater Yachting, an international multifaceted company specializing in yacht crew training, placement, recruiting, yacht brokerage, yacht charters, and yacht management. Amy Ira, welcome to Maritime Moment. Let's make some sound waves.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. Looking forward to this.
We're excited about this issue. There's so much in the news about working on a ship now, and that makes us excited. What kind of hours are involved if you work on a yacht?
It depends on where the yacht is. If it's in the shipyard, you're 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, half day on Saturday, typically, unless you're just trying to push out of the shipyard because you've got a charter in the Bahamas in 4 days. Then it can be, 7 a.m. to midnight getting the boat ready. When you've got charter guests on board or owners on board, it's very early. It's 6:30 early person, and you're up until the guests have finished dinner, and then the late girl is up later at 8, and then she's up until the guests go to bed. So that can be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So the hours are very exhausting when you've got guests on board. You do normally get a break in the middle of the day, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how many crew the boat runs with. But honestly, I never found that it was possible for me to actually sleep during that break. I would lay down and rest, but there's, you just have to get back up in a couple of hours. So you just grind through it and hope that you get appreciated at the end with a nice big tip or with a gratitude bonus at the end of the year from your owners if you're working private.
Before we talk about charters, you have me picturing a stewardess or a mate, being able to basically close their eyes and not sleep, but just close their eyes to just take a breath, basically, because in just a minute they need to go back to work.
Yeah.
How are our yacht crew being affected, psychologically with all of the stress that they face? I mean, is everybody working? What kind of problems are you seeing that are most prevalent?
There have been, some owners completely threw all their toys out of the pram and put the boat on the market, laid off all the crew and said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I want out of the industry.
Really?
And absolutely. Some of them laid off the crew, didn't put the boat on the market, but just told the crew that I don't know when I'm going to bring you back. Some told the crew that you can continue working for me, but I need to reduce your wages by 50%, so I'll also reduce your time by 50%. I would say that I'm surprised that it hasn't been more, to be perfectly honest, looking at the number of businesses that have gone under already as a result. I'm pleasantly surprised that there haven't been more layoffs and more skeleton crews and more boats going up for sale.
It's interesting that you said that because I had a conversation I want to say right when this first happened. And, it was a business owner himself. And he was saying how some of his friends, at the club were having to make those difficult layoffs in their businesses and then felt guilty then going to want to spend the weekend to get away on their yacht, on their boat. So he said one of his friends did exactly that. He was just like, he laid off the crew and then put his boat on the market to try and save his business. So
Yeah.
it is like you said, it's a little bit of give and take for both, but it's interesting
There is
time.
that guilt there too. People have felt guilty about having a place to go and having a respite. There have been some crew that have been working straight through this with the owners on board. Some of the boats have had the owner come in quarantine on board. So they've had to wear masks during their job for the last 3 months. And of course, the owner then wants to have a lunch party for his, 7 or 8 guests. And the crew were like, oh dear, where do we know you have been here, but we don't know where your friends have been and how safe they've been. So there is an added level of anxiety by all means whenever there are any guests coming on board. We had one yacht that we know of that the captain was here when this all happened, and he was not able to fly back to the boat because he didn't want to take the risk of getting the virus and bringing it back to his wife and child. So he made the decision was made that he was not going to have that job anymore because that boat was not in the country and the owner wanted to use it. He wanted the boat to be active. So it's amazing how impactful it's been. But I am obviously the eternal optimist. I wouldn't be in business if I was a pessimist because that's not how you do things. But yeah, it hasn't been as bad as it could be for the yachting industry. I think that, thank God for the PPP. I will say that payroll protection program has been a godsend for a lot of for myself and a lot of other people in business in the South Florida area.
What are you doing? What is our industry doing at this time to help people on yachts deal with anxiety?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think I know that there was a wellness hotline that someone was working on. I can't remember the name of it or the link to it, but I think it was Corinne Rayson or something like that, who the crew coach was working on a wellness hotline. And that was not just about COVID. That was actually before this because, the hours are very, very long. And when you can't sleep properly or you can't, you don't get enough rest, it makes you a little loopy anyway. Makes your thought process is not quite right. So the stresses of working long hours are there whether or not COVID exists. The COVID has just amplified it because it's made people worried about catching something that they're going to pass on to someone else that, unbeknownst to them, that may be in a less, not a strong system to cover it, to handle it. Most yachties are fairly young and healthy and not so worried about themselves getting it and, getting it and dying from it because they're young and healthy.
How else are guests reacting to charters being canceled, or are they canceling charters? What activity are you seeing there?
Charters that were booked prior to the pandemic being announced, most of them have been canceled. And I say most because everything shut down. As you know, the entire world shut down to travel. And slowly, countries and states basically reopened. So St. Thomas was the first place to reopen. And we have one of our charter yachts, two of our charter yachts in our fleet is in St. Thomas base there. And they are jamming. They're so busy right now. They're booked out through the middle of August. And I've got inquiries, probably 6 or 7 inquiries for those last 2 weeks in August. So there is a lot of pent up demand for charter. I would say every broker in town would say the same thing right now. Everybody wants to go somewhere. The Bahamas open next Monday, whatever is the first, to commercial tourism. So that's going to make a big change. I know there's a lot of more bookings going on there. As far as the cancellations, the MIVA contracts has a force majeure clause in it, but it's not for the guests. It's only can be called by the owner. So, for example, I have a client who has diabetes, had booked a boat for 2 weeks in Italy, starting in June. He cannot fly. He can't fly internationally anyway because Europe is all the way closed to Americans at the moment. So he can't do his charter. But at the time when his second payment was due, he started asking, can I reschedule? Can I cancel? Can I get out of this? And the answer was pay your second deposit before the date, or you're going to lose all your money. So this wasn't even necessarily a COVID. It was a COVID question that he asked, because I'm not going to be able to travel. The central agent used the second deadline to force him to pay the second payment. He ended up walking away from it, which is just a terrible shame because it was a beautiful boat and he would have had a lovely time. But the owner refused to reschedule at that point. This was in early March. Brokers, there's not a single broker that I've talked to that hasn't lost a commission or all of their commissions, because, like I said, the contract does not allow the client to cancel their charter for any reason without losing money. So there's a new COVID addendum that the MIVA, Mediterranean Yacht Brokers Association, has created. It's very long, it's arduous, it's a negotiation for every rescheduling. The rest of the charters that I had booked on retail capacity have rescheduled for next year, except for that one. But everybody has had charters that have canceled, and it's just—
They're having to take their lumps.
They are. All of us brokers are losing it. The owners are losing the charter revenue, and a lot of those owners were depending on that charter revenue. I mean, I think
to offset the maintenance costs of their boat, quite expensive.
They make decisions based on what's coming in. They make, employing decisions. They make investing decisions based on money that they're projecting that should come in because they've got the contract in their hand. Well, now that contract that we are having as brokers, having to renegotiate the terms of the addendum as to how long the client can reschedule for in the future, which is still a concession on the owner's part. The owner still has the right to say, sorry, not my problem that you can't fly out. My boat's here and ready. So the owner could, in lots of cases, as long as the boat is in the place where it's supposed to be, and there is free travel in that country for that boat, he can perform the charter. So if the charter client can't get there, it's just their tough luck.
So tell us, the two boats in St. Thomas, which two boats are those? I know everybody wants to know a little bit about them, how big they are and what type of boat. And it's going to knock people's socks off. How much does it cost to charter a yacht?
Okay, so we have Elite, which is a 68-foot Sunseeker. Manhattan, sleeps 6 guests in 3 cabins. She has a 4th cabin, but they only use 3. They run with 2 crew, and she's around $25,000 to $30,000 a week, all inclusive. She's based in St. Thomas. And we also have motor yacht Just Enough, which is a 140-foot Aries, sleeps 11 in 5 staterooms and runs with 9 crew. She has every toy in the world, including a water slide from the top deck, a hot tub, 34-foot center console custom tender, stand-up paddle boards, stand-up pedal paddle boards, sea bobs, doors, and a rock star chef and an amazing captain. Awesome crew. They have just killed it. They're doing a really great job for us.
How much does it cost to charter that?
That one is $119 a week low season and $129 high season. High season is the holidays.
Amy,
Wow.
I'm curious if I can just jump in and ask a question. Talking about chartering and having the crew on board, has there been trouble procuring foods and supplies and, all the things you would need in your house, you need on a yacht to serve the guest? Has that been a struggle?
I don't think so. I haven't heard that it is. I know that, being in St. Thomas is similar to being here in Florida, but we also use provisioners for both of those boats. So Yacht Chandlers and National Marines are our friends. So I don't think they've had any trouble. I would have to defer to my colleagues in France to answer that question as far
Haven't heard of anybody running out of toilet paper like we did here.
No.
You have to be on a yacht to have toilet paper. Okay. How are yacht sales doing right now, brokerage and new builds?
They are supposedly doing very, very well. I receive a lot of emails in my inbox with sold in the subject line. So I would say I'm seeing at least 1 or 2 boat sales happening a day. I wouldn't say they're giant boats. You know, they're in the 70 to 90 foot range for the most part. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 in the past 2 months that are over the 150 foot range.
And are you seeing like the asking prices? Are they like big incentive, or is it?
That's something I'm glad you said that, because one thing I've noticed this past 2 weeks, since of course the Bahamas opening July 1st, a lot of charter broadcasts are advertising 25-30% off of their normal rate. So I think it depends on the market. Like I said, St. Thomas, there's not a lot of competition down there, so our boats are doing very well. But in the Bahamas, there's a ton of competition here. All the boats that left the Caribbean after the winter season came straight to Florida, and now they're competing against each other for the business that is there. They're booking up. There is still good availability, but there's a lot of competition here in the Bahamas, Florida Bahamas.
Wow, I think you've given everybody a great idea of how yachting industry works. Art, what questions do you have for Amy today?
I'm thinking seeing the different rules and regulations of what it takes to be on a yacht.
Mm-hmm.
How has the crew licensing changed, and has there been any changes due to COVID-19? I know you mentioned people having to change their status, whether they're coming in and out of ports through different countries. Has there been like some kind of overwhelming decision that needs to be changed going forward, or what's happening?
The best thing that has come out of this is that the MCA is now listening to us when we say we need to do more online training. We need the ability to do more online training. And because it has become a requirement to do even the oral exams remotely, because you can't be in somebody's personal space anymore. Right. I think that's the biggest, the best thing from progress in training. Yeah, definitely the MCA is listening to our requests.
That's good. And have you had any kind of weird stories happen on the boats that have been chartered? Because I was fishing out in the Gulf of Mexico right in mid-March, and we started calling them ghost ships, but there was all of the cruise ships that were parked out in the parking lot about 12 miles off the coast of Tampa. And, there were only crew on it, these big ships, and there were only crew. And, some guy came over and just like, hey, we can't get off. I'll pay you $10,000 if you take me back to port. And
wow.
I'm sitting here catching fish and having fun. And I'm like, wow, he must be in really either a dire situation or just joking. But, as we were talking about it coming back, and we didn't take him, by the way.
Yeah.
But I was just like, it must be a serious situation.
Yeah, I felt so bad for those passengers that were stuck on the boat and the crew that were stuck on those cruise ships. It was a no-win situation, really. Can you imagine going on a vacation and then coming back and not being able to get off, and knowing that you were confined
right.
in this same space with however many people are sick? It had to be just absolute torture. I haven't heard anything similar to your story from the yachting industry. I'll keep my ears to the ground though on that.
All right. Well, do you want to get into some rapid fire questions? I think we've reached that part of the show. So you can answer as fast as you want, keep the answers short and sweet, but we're going to kind of punch through some of these a little more fun questions. So, all right. So what is your guilty pleasure during COVID-19?
TikTok. My God, I'm a total addict. I just can't stop it. It's just flip, 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 flip. And I just love the cat videos.
Nice. How late have you stayed up on TikTok on accident?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm normally up until 11:30 anyway. Mm-hmm. So, but that last hour of yeah, probably about an hour before finally putting the phone down and saying, okay, I can go to sleep now. I have seen enough cat videos for the day.
That's awesome. Speaking of pets, do you have any pets? I know, Julie and Lisa and myself all have animals. Do you have any pets?
Yeah, so I have 2 cats at home, Darla and Velvet. They are the same age, but from different litters, and they're completely different. Darla would have to be my favorite. She's not everybody's favorite. She's like a cactus with fur.
Oh, no.
Very, very scratchy. You can pick her up for about 5 seconds, and then she lets you know it's time to put her down. But she's also the one that loves dogs. So when I get home from work, she's out in the front yard and she's waiting for me. But during the day and in the morning, she will go, if there's a small dog being walked, she will go to the dog directly and throw herself on the ground, show him her belly, and roll around.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're friends.
That's cool.
But here at the office, we have 4 kittens right now that are for adoption through Good Karma Pet Rescue.
Oh, wow.
They're not really ready for adoption yet. They get fixed on the 10th of July, so they are available. We've already adopted one of them out. And we also have Petey, which you can't see, but he's under my desk right now, and he's a foster dog. He's a Japanese Chin, and his foster mom found him here at the office as well, so she gets him on July 17th.
Very cool. What's the best part of your job?
Those kittens? Oh, sorry. I mean,
Nice answer.
It's
fire. It's rapid fire.
They're a nice distraction when you need it.
Good. All right. So last question for me. What's your parting shot for the industry?
I guess my advice is, it's not really advice. It's a saying. It's man plans and God laughs. And that is my story completely, because I had the plan for my life, plan A, plan B, all the way through J on a little piece of paper. And I really thought, if plan A doesn't work out, then I'm going to plan B. And of course, here I am, plan H. Never even saw it coming. So.
Love it. That's it for me, Lisa. Any more questions?
I just have a couple of more questions. You launched Fort Yachty, the film festival, but explain what that was, what its legacy is now, and your favorite flick.
So the Fort Yachty Film Festival was it's a competition of 3-minute short videos. We had anywhere from 3 to 7 different categories, and the crew had a few parameters. It had to be original content that they shot themselves. It could not be professionals or hire professionals. They had to not publish it elsewhere, because I didn't want them getting a YouTube following prior to the show. And they had to make it less than 3 minutes. They had a whole year to create the content. We did 7 years of the festival. Loved every minute of it. It was a labor of love. It wasn't a moneymaker in any stretch, but it was really just a creative outlet for the crew. We knew the crew had the talents. We knew that they were already making videos for charter guests. But there's a lot of downtime on yachts, especially if you don't have guests on board. So it gave them something to throw their creative talents in. Like I said, this is not a desk job, or yachting is not a desk job. It's a hands-on job. So a lot of them are creative folks. So that was the thought behind it. If you had to ask me my favorite one, I have a lot of favorite ones, but there's 3. If I had to narrow it down, one was called Channel Yachty by James Wood, and it was just hysterical. He did one scene where he had some engineers all 3 engineers are sitting at a table in St. Martin, and a girl came over, and they all ran away because, of course, engineers are awkward. And then, of course, they were reminiscing about how they almost talked to a girl. It was just that's that one, Channel Yachty. Then, of course, there is Happy Working Stews, which was Mish Marcio on the yacht Starfire. And that one was, I can't remember, it was a Mary Poppins theme song, I think, that she did the theme to. And the girls were cleaning the boat, and it was adorable, really good. And then the other one was by Scott DeMello and his crew, Jennifer Mormon and Steve Fallon, I think, were all the people. Maybe it was different, but they did a scene of yacht charter guests that came on board, and they were snippy and pissy with each other at the beginning of the charter, and the crew worked their magic. And every so often the crew would change into like superhero uniforms, and sort of blink back and forth to show how the magic that the yacht crew actually brings to the table. And by the end of the charter, of course, they were eating off of each other's plates and in love again. So that one was a really heartwarming story.
I remember that one.
It was good, wasn't it? I can't remember the name of that
This is a great time for yacht crew to embrace what the spirit was of the festival while they have time, if they have time, something to, spur their creative outlet, our digital world. You're a success story. You've worked hard for it. What should crew do who want to come ashore, who are just done being on board, or they're planning their retirement? What big tip do you have to them?
So number one, brush up on your computer skills. Get to know Microsoft Office like nothing else. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Outlook. You probably already know Excel well enough, but Excel even. There's YouTube videos out there for every last little nuance, every feature that those programs have. But every employer is going to require you to know how to make a Word document, how to answer emails professionally, how to use Microsoft Outlook. It is so mandatory in our business anyway, and I think any desk job is going to require those platforms. If you are into marketing, if you're creative, get to know the Adobe suite, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Dreamweaver, Photoshop. Dreamweaver is the one for creating HTML emails and HTML websites, and Photoshop is for photo editing and PDF creations, things like that. If you're more on the deck side or more of a captain, try to learn some project management software, because that's what your next role is likely to be as a project manager. Those kinds of things. But computer-based work is really where the land jobs are, unless you go into an estate, which is going to be similar to your yacht position as far as the demand on your time. So if you're getting out of yachting to gain more personal free time, an estate's not necessarily going to do that. To educate everybody on what happens on board a yacht, what happens at Bluewater Yachting. We'd like to thank our audience for tuning in to this episode of Maritime Moment, sponsored by Bluewater Yachting with our guest, Amy Ira. You can enjoy all our episodes on maritimemoment.com and YouTube and all of our social channels that you'll find on the website. Who will our next guest on Maritime Moment be? Where will we take you? To the docks? Out to sea? You'll just have to tune in to find out. Until then, thank you for making sound waves with us. Aboard a yacht, barge, or ship at sea, on shore, in your home or office. It's all about you. Thank you. Thank you. Have every intention. Not relaunching for Yida, but starting to share those videos again on our Facebook page.
Oh, awesome.
Doing it earlier in the COVID, but just didn't get around to it. The thing is, now, of course, Instagram will do a 1-minute video, so I'm like torn between, do I cut them from 3 minutes to 1 minute?
Yes.
It's a lot of editing. Or do I just forget about Instagram and just keep it on Facebook? But
or you lean into that guilty pleasure and do 15
I'm on TikTok
or 60 seconds on TikTok and just.
No, I'm so happy to hear that. These guys, say kids because I'm 40 something now, but they put like everything they had into them.
Listen, the last year they were out of this world. The quality went through the roof.
That's good.
They're talking green screen. They were green screening and everything.
They were so good, really good.
But I mean, Amy also put on she had a big premiere and everyone would get dressed up and they'd go to Cinema Paradiso down in Fort Lauderdale. And it was an event and they'd get an award that was an Oscar, but it was an Oscar fish. And I have to find I'll have to send a picture of that because that was great.
Cool.
We've got
but it was just
here in the office.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you did a great job.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for your participation.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Exciting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.